who's our Director of Alumni Relations, so we sort of go back and forth between helping out CAPS. He, before the break, I think started to work with you guys a little bit on resumes, so I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and resumes. So before we get started there, if you haven't already had a chance to, we've got the TEDx event coming up on February 3rd. It's a great opportunity to view 5 different individuals to hear a little bit about their career in innovation and technology, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to partner with a group like TED. So if you haven't already, Seamus, who's the ASB Commissioner for Communications, sent something out as he does every week, and there's a URL. You could also go to bcp.org/TEDx, and you can also get here. So any questions about that? I know Mr. Zuniga also mentioned that if you have any interest in helping us out, just let us know. You can let me or Mr. Zuniga know if you have an interest. But again, this is on Friday, February 3rd at 2:15 p.m. in Sobrato.
In what capacities or roles could students help out with that?
Great question. So certainly in terms of greeting any of our guests. I know we have some people already at check-in, the check-in area, but then we could also use some folks probably in terms of directing folks to where Sobrato is, because we anticipate hopefully we'll have people who have never been here at the campus who are also trying to look for where Sobrato is. So that, maybe even helping with some of our speakers. So we're still trying to flesh out exactly, but yeah, there are definitely some roles that you can do. Yes.
Is this event only open to students?
Great question. So it's also open to, right now this week, it's open just to students. We want to try to get as many students a free ticket as we can. And then after this week, then we'll open up to the broader community and invite anyone, whether they're a student or a parent or fill in the blank. The 5 speakers we have, you can't really see this here, but Jim Miller, who is Vice President of Operations for Google, so he's got worldwide operations, so he's got a really big job, obviously. Bill McKiernan, who is President of WSM Capital, and a lot of his focus is in the technology sector. Then, hey, come on in. Then Marcin Klasinski, who is CEO of Malwarebytes. Then Kevin McMahon, who's one of our educators here at the school. He's also an Olympian. And then finally, Michael Hurlston, who's Senior Vice President and General Manager for Mobile Communications for Broadcom. And he actually, I'm going to talk about him in just a minute, but what's really interesting is he's talking about the Internet of Things. So it's just some interesting stuff, and by now I'm sure you've all seen TED Talks, so you kind of get the picture. But that's February 3rd. We'd certainly love to have any of you registered. Yes.
Are they all Bellarmine graduates?
No. Mr. McMahon is a Bellarmine graduate. Mr. Hurlston and Mr. Miller are both. Oh, and Mr. McKiernan are all parents of alums. So 2 alums and 3 parents of alums.
How much are the tickets for non-students?
$10. So, embarrassed to say, could be 15.
I
think it's 15. I think it's 15. Okay. Sorry, it doesn't show up on here because we're not charging for it. Any other questions? So that's February 3rd, TEDx. So let me just talk about LinkedIn for a little while. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile?
Nothing on.
Nothing on it. Okay, good. That's what we're here to do. So I just want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. And I know right now, especially for you, if you don't have a job, you're kind of like, well, what do I put on my LinkedIn profile, right? So I just want to go through a couple of different LinkedIn profiles. This is my LinkedIn profile, and if you haven't set up a LinkedIn account, I definitely would love for you even right now to just pull out your Surface and create a LinkedIn account. Part of doing this club is that we want to help you get ahead of where other folks are at, right? And so a simple way to at least get yourself out there is to have some sort of web presence. So LinkedIn, if you just go to linkedin.com and then you create a username and password and whole 9 yards, right, you will be able to create a profile. And by creating a profile, let me go to me. I'm going to view it. So this is me. You can't really see too well on the screen, but this is my profile. So you're able to put a picture. I actually really strongly encourage you to put a picture. Why? Well, first impressions mean everything, right? So if you've got a really good picture, even if it's your picture from the yearbook and you just take a picture of it, that is helpful because there could be, I mean, my name's not too common, but there could be many David Holquins. So this is one way to make sure that when someone's looking for you, that you can make sure that this is in fact the David Holquin that I'm after. Second thing is you're going to notice that some folks like me, I actually put a lot of information about my career path and sort of what I have done. And I know I'm different because I've had a job for a while, right? So these are all the different jobs that I've had, okay? There's a spot for honors and awards. I'll come back to that. These skills right here, these skills are things that people say about you. So I'll show you that in just a minute. Then a little bit about my education. I think it's really important. Obviously, you're a Bellarmine student. That's really important to put out there. And I was recently reading a book, actually. It's called The Hillbilly Elegy. J.D. Vance is the author, and he is an individual who ends up going from Appalachia and really sort of, his words, not mine, hillbilly country, to eventually going to Yale Law School. And he has no money, but he joined the Marine Corps. And actually, it's a really interesting story. Why I bring this up is because one of the things he talked about was in his experience, he did not have a network. He did not have any people who, frankly, had gone to an Ivy League school or even to some degrees gone to college. So the fact that you were at Bellarmine, you have a network. And the fact that this network that you have really does mean something, definitely, for lack of better words, exploit it to your advantage. Use this network that you have, use the career opportunities, use this club to your advantage. So anyway, make sure that you put that out there. And then, volunteer opportunities. So I'm going to focus right here on these volunteers, experiences, and causes for a minute. Right now, if you don't have a job, you don't have an internship, if you're not a soccer referee, if you're not fill in the blank, but you've done anything with volunteer, I would really encourage you to start right here. Obviously, you've got your CSP hours that you need to do. If you're going to the same place consistently, then I think it's okay to use that as part of your volunteer experience. But if you're sort of jumping around in your CSP work hours, I wouldn't include that, right? Because from a potential employer standpoint, we want to see consistency. So if you are consistent at going to, the hospital, and that's something you're doing and you've been doing it consistently, put that down there as volunteer experience. Or if it's an internship, also put that down in your career experience. So again, this volunteer experiences and causes is different from your experience. Do any of you have jobs right now? Any of you have internships that you've done in the summer? Okay, so certainly, and some of that stuff, because you are building your own brand, so to speak, because you are building your career, it's okay for you right now not to have a bunch, but I would encourage you to at least put something. So if you have done anything that is experiential related, if you are part of a particular club, if you are, especially if you're a leader in a particular club, I would put that out there, okay? What I wanted to do was, so Michael Hurlston, who's one of the individuals who is speaking to us. So, it's taking a minute. Right now I'm looking at Michael's experience, right? So his is different from mine, right? I put a bunch of bullets underneath the various things that I've done. He just simply puts whatever his specific job was, right? Neither is right, neither is wrong. They're just different. And especially for you, as you are beginning this process, you might not have a lot to put down there, okay? And that's okay. I want to show you a couple of student, there we go. So Channing is a Bell alum. He's currently at Berkeley. Many of you may know him. Graduated just last year. And if you take a look at him, so he was the editor-in-chief of the Carillon. He was obviously the founder and the president of our group here. He was part of robotics. He was doing some software engineering and product design internships. He has a lot here that he can put. But let's just say you're on the football team. And let's just say that you were named MVP of the football team. It's okay to put that on there, okay? And if anything, it's actually appropriate for you to do that. You want to take a look at what are the things that you are doing and involved in and that you care about. And until you get greater experience, publicize those things. Be proud of those things. So again, here's an example of he's giving you a little blurb about himself right here in this summary comment. Then he puts his experience as editor-in-chief and then founder and president. You'll also notice, obviously, he's got his Bellarmine education here. He's putting his GPA. For me, that's one of those things where you can put your GPA, but it's not a deal breaker. And what I mean by that is if you're applying for a college, that's one thing. But for the most part, when you're applying for a job, no one has asked me in any job interview for the last 15 years what my GPA was. I mean, no one really cares. It's about getting into college for the most part, right? And then once you're in college, then your college resume should speak for itself unless you're planning on going to grad school. So you also see down here his volunteer experience. Some of the areas that he did, I can't say this with certainty, but I'm pretty sure this tutoring was part of his CSP hours. Pretty sure. Can't be certain though. So that's a very high level overview. I wonder if you have questions. So especially as you go onto LinkedIn, are there questions that you have about what I should put or how I should phrase it or anything like that? Yeah.
So the LinkedIn profile is public to anyone?
Yes. So there are ways to make it private, but part of the purpose of LinkedIn is you want it to be public because one of the things that happens when you have a public LinkedIn account is it at least allows you to be findable isn't a word, but to be found, right? So there are things that you can choose to keep private, and in the settings, I gotta look at my own here. In the settings, there are a couple of things that you can do. One is right here. So anytime I make updates to my LinkedIn profile, I've decided that my network doesn't need to know that. And why is that? Because some of the edits could just be like, oh, I've decided that I'm adding in some media, some project that I've done, right? I don't really care if people know that. But if people go onto my LinkedIn profile, they can still access it, right? Another thing is, so that's that piece, but I feel like we're up here. It's up here. I encourage you to just get the basic. There's no need for you to pay for any sort of premium stuff. But if you also look here, if you click on your icon, then you go to privacy settings, then you can manage those specific things. So you can say like, hey, I don't want anyone to know what my email address is, or my profile picture can only be shown to those people who actually know me. There are all sorts of different things that you can do. So good question. Other questions you have?
Probably a place to put a resume in there or something like that.
Yeah, so right in here under experience, the way you do it is you add a position or you add something. So in this case, I'm not actually going to, but let's just say that I now worked for a different company. Let's say, for the sake of it, I now work for Hewlett-Packard. So to the extent possible, try to use the icons that pre-populated. You may work for fill in the blank as an intern and they don't have an icon, but it's nice to be attached with that icon because A, it provides a more official look, right? But B, it also allows you to be searched in different ways if it's the official brand as opposed to an unofficial brand. So that's just another thing to sort of keep in mind. So
I actually had a question about resumes. Since here at Bellarmine we do Christian service projects, would it be a good idea to put a Christian service projects experience down in our resumes?
yes. So what I would suggest though is only if it's something you're doing consistently. So if you're going to the same homeless shelter, if you're going to the same tutoring place, if you're going to fill in the blank, that is appropriate to do. But if you are just getting your CSP hours done and that's sort of it, you have no desire, you have no passion, or even if you don't have desire or passion, you just are sort of coming in and out, I would say no. But if it is something that you are doing on a regular basis, even if it's through CSP, absolutely put that down. And put that down under volunteer experience. It may translate into something where it's actually unpaid internship, or it could be something where they say, yeah, I know you're done with your CSP hours, but we'd love to have you keep coming back. Then that becomes real experience that I would put in here as part of your experience. Good question. Other questions like that?
Yeah, so let's say you haven't done any work and when you do service, it's kind of scattered. So I'm kind of confused what we should put in the experience.
Good question. So let's take a few steps back. When you envision yourself getting a job, what job or what career are you interested in? It's okay if you say I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. So let's just say that you have an interest in going into the business world.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say that that's what you're interested in. What I would say to you and to anyone else is try to map your LinkedIn profile, like your resume, toward the areas where you have an interest. So if business might be something sort of on your mindset, I would encourage you to do a couple things. One, start looking for opportunities that are in the business realm, right? Part of what you're doing right now is being part of this CAPDS club. I would put that down as part of your activities. So I'm answering your question in a roundabout way, okay? So under Bellarmine College Prep, there's this thing called activities and societies. So right here under activities and societies, I would start putting in information about CAPS or any other clubs that you're a part of, okay? If you take a leadership role in any of those places, I would absolutely put that in your experience as part of job, okay? Because anytime you're leading individuals, you can definitely consider that as part of your job. If you don't have any of that in there, what I would probably say is skip the experience part in terms of whatever your career is. So skip this part under experience and really focus more on either honors and awards, if you have any honors and awards, education, and then any volunteer work that you do. Again, if you've got enough consistency with something, put it down. So what I'm saying to you in this roundabout way is, if you don't have any of that, and you're still stuck with, well, what the heck do I do? It's better to begin getting your profile out there and building it, and using this as an opportunity to say, I don't really have anything to put down that I'm, my words, proud of or that I want to share. Maybe that's something I should start doing. So that's my roundabout answer for it. I'd also say that if you do recognize that, then this is a good opportunity for you to begin thinking CAPS is something I like, assuming it's something like. Maybe I need to begin talking with the moderators about how I could get a leadership position, or with the other individuals who are part of our leadership. If you're on a particular team, right, and with that team you are trying to think about with your coach, how could I get more leadership experience? Have those conversations. Put it out there. Another thing is that, especially by being part of CAPS, we will have the opportunity for you at some point in time to apply for internships in the springtime. And so I would really strongly encourage you to sort of pursue that process. That way you actually do have things that you can put in here. My final piece of advice for this, and let me go back to Shannon's here for a minute. Maybe he's a bad example. Any of you have LinkedIn that you want me to put up here? And Joel?
I got mine.
I feel like, yeah. So here's Joel. He's here, right? He's got much more in his education, right? And then a couple of projects here, which is great. I would strongly encourage you to just start there. Just start there. Start with your education. Start with any, if there are particular classes that you really enjoy, that really spoke to you, put that down there. If there's something that you found really interesting and that you might consider pursuing, put that down there. So I guess what I'm saying is I recognize that you guys are building, you're not there, and that's okay. Anyone who's expecting any of you as a high school freshman, sophomore, junior, senior to have all this career experience is just dumb. That's not realistic for anybody. So I wouldn't worry about it, but I would take it as a good opportunity to say I should start doing stuff. So forgive my very long-winded answer to your very fair and succinct question. Other questions? Yeah.
Can doing something or like in general, like in a LinkedIn profile hurt you?
It could only hurt you, and this happens more on social media, unlike LinkedIn, is, there's definitely stories that are out there which are true, they're not urban legends, where schools have rescinded college offers of admission for something that has happened and been posted on Facebook, for example. It's rare that LinkedIn would hurt you unless you lie about something. So if you lie about your experience, if you lie about your credentials, if you put anything here that's false, that obviously could hurt you, right? And in this public and internet age, obviously people can find out. So if you put on here, I'm making this up, you're a graduate of Harvard, and you're clearly not, right? Like, maybe it's not going to hurt you right now, it's going to hurt you eventually. So I would say the only harm to a LinkedIn profile is if you were to lie.
In terms of like skills that you list down, for me, I'm not like a professional in any of the skills I put down, but would it still be like appropriate to list some of those there?
Yeah, so I would look at your LinkedIn profile, not unlike, I don't have a Facebook account, so I'm one of the rare people who doesn't have one. I let my wife do all of our social media stuff. What I at least know about Facebook is it changes over time, right? Like the things that you post about changes over time, the things that you care about. And I don't even know if you guys are on Facebook anymore. Right? Point is that I would say that in my experience, I have updated my LinkedIn profile at least once or twice a year, because there are things that have happened to me. There are certain successes that I want to put out there to keep fresh. So what I'm saying, to answer your question, Joel, is it's okay if something you put on here right now as a skill, you recognize, that's not a skill of mine anymore, and you take it off. Like, that's the beauty of something like this, or even a resume. Once you have your template built, then you can adjust it as time goes by. Good question. Other questions? So another thing that I would suggest is don't spend too much time doing this, but view some other people's LinkedIn profiles your age, right? See what other people your age are putting out there, and feel free to run it by me or Mr. Zuniga. Like, hey, can you take a look at what I've created as my profile? Like, we're happy to help you go through that and say like, I wouldn't add that, or I would add that, for example. Okay. I've got 3 minutes. Last thing is resume. So this goes back to your early question, like, well, geez, I don't have any experience, right? So when we were talking about this before, let me see if I still have it. When we talked about this last year, we spent a little bit of time trying to go through some resumes. I have to see my non-organization. So here are some sample resumes that, again, it's kind of hard to see and I don't know how to adjust it. But for students your age, right, you're not going to have a lot by way of job experience. But let's say in terms of high school activities that you've been involved either in this club or other clubs, or you're part of a sports team, put that on there. It shows commitment. It shows that you're willing to be part of a team. It shows a lot, right? Community service, again, going back to several of your questions. My belief about community service, even though you guys do have CSP hours, is definitely put it on there, especially if it's something you're doing consistently. If you just for 5 hours volunteer at, Clinic Olay that was in Napa, which is where I used to work, that doesn't really count because, God bless you, from a potential college admission advisor or from a career person, that's not showing you anything. That just shows, okay, you spent 5 hours of your time. That's it. Only show the things, again, that you're proud of, that you want people to know that you did, or that you have some sort of consistency with. And then skills and achievements. If you are part of, the basketball team, the robotics team, doesn't really matter. You're part of the theater program. You're doing the set and design. Put that stuff on there. And if you're not, this is a good, again, wake-up call to figure out what are the things that I am interested and passionate about that I should start joining. Okay. If you're not involved in anything. Final thing, obviously, if you've got any honors and awards, if you were named most valuable player, most improved player, if you were given something in a particular class, that there's some class competition that you have in your English class, or your teacher said that, this is a lame one, but this was the best essay ever, and it actually somehow matters, okay, not just that, oh, you got a name. Put that down there. It's okay. Again, the big thing is make sure that if you need help, that you reach out to us. Take a look at LinkedIn profiles. Have a great afternoon, gentlemen. Go Bells. Go Bells. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holquin.
Take care of yourself.
I'm Jacob.
Jacob, are you?